Good day, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Athens, Greece for Reason to Resist on October 19th, 2025. And today I'm very pleased to be joined here in Athens with Palestinian journalist from Gaza, Abubaker Abed. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you so much.
And before we begin, I just want to point out to our audience that Abubaker is here for several days. There's, I believe, a Palestine Film Festival happening now. I don't know if you knew that, an independent film festival. But before you arrived, I was told by some journalistic colleagues here that the Journalist Network for Palestine Greece had been promoting Abubaker's trip to Greece for about a month, and not a single member of Greece's disgraceful legacy media saw fit to request an interview. So we feel privileged to have the opportunity to speak with you.
The privilege is mine. Thank you.
So I'd like to begin by talking about the experience of leaving Gaza, which I understand you managed to do several months ago, and you're now pursuing studies in Ireland.
That's correct, yeah.
And painfully, you had to leave behind family. Can you tell us about which family members remained and what is happening now currently? Where are they? How are they getting by?
Well, I've left all my family, so I'm just alone here in Ireland and going around to keep doing what I have to do for Palestine. And they live in central Gaza. You know, the situation, there's a ceasefire in place, which is very famously fragile. And, everyone is following up closely on every bit of news coming out of Gaza and coming out of occupied Palestine, just to ensure that this ceasefire will stay firm and that there will be no violations or no continuation of the genocide. You're right, leaving your homeland is very painful. I think since I've landed here in Greece, I felt, a lot of pain, a lot of homesickness has been evoked in me. Greece and Palestine resemble each other very perfectly, and that's what I've seen. Very similar neighborhoods and very similar people. They're friendly to each other. They're, more into each other. It's not like Ireland. It's not like, the other parts of Europe. And probably the reason behind that, I believe, is where both countries lie, because we're just across the water, and Ireland and, Palestine is occupied. But if things are normal, I would just take a boat and go back to the Gaza Strip or Palestine. Mm. So, it's a very agonizing decision, as I always say, and it really hurts me. And what hurts me more and makes me panic more is the fact that I don't know if I will see them again in the future. Mm. So all of this and the circumstances under which I was obliged to leave Gaza, all of this is very hard to bear. And then, as a 22-year-old, I would say youth, resident, journalist, whatever you want to call me, bearing such a responsibility at this time is very difficult. Mm-hmm. And something that needs high spirits, and it's like a marathon, and it needs so much resolute determination, mm-hmm. and power. Mm-hmm. But, in the end, there's nothing like home. But I really felt very happy to be here. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a very straight person. I don't love compliments at all. Mm-hmm. But it really evokes a lot of love and a lot of homesickness in me when I just visited and arrived here in Greece.
Yeah. Before you sat down, I was speaking with my colleague Lamprini about the similarities between our cultures. And I think she and I are both in agreement that we have much more in common with the people of Palestine than with Europeans from the north of the continent.
I think so.
In every respect.
Probably, yeah.
So I can imagine how that coming here would...
especially the olive trees.
Yes.
Loads of the olive trees. I haven't seen that in the whole of Europe. Like I went to the UK, in Ireland as well. I went shortly for Turkey. But then, no, I didn't see anything.
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Smart.
So, the UN says Israel has killed at least 248 journalists since this genocide began more than 2 years ago. Did you know any of them personally? And
Yeah, I know
talk to
many
us,
of them.
talk to us a little bit about the friends you've lost from the journalistic profession.
I mean, I know many of them, of course, and one of the really hardest losses was probably Hussam Shabat, because he was 1 year older than me, and we were working in the same outlet. He was working at Topside News, and we were going to report something together about the release of the Palestinian hostages back in February this year. And then, we were talking to each other about how we wanted to form the story, what we should start with, and other things, and whom am I going to meet, whom was I going to meet or interview, and the same for him. And then the genocide was resumed all of a sudden on March the 18th, and things started to escalate very quickly, and the killings, happened very abruptly at that time. And then just a week after, the genocide, or within the first week of the genocide resumption, Hussam was killed. And he was hit deliberately by an Israeli drone while reporting from northern Gaza. And he's someone who never left northern Gaza at all. So he stayed in the north of the Strip, reporting and, taking footage of everything he was witnessing. And he was not even just, reporting the news or reporting what was happening, but he was also at the heart of humanitarian efforts to help his own people. Mm-hmm. And that's what made him really special. This is something I couldn't myself do. Mm-hmm. But he was always trying to help his own people and be with them amidst the devastation and the very extremely abhorrent circumstances that people are living through. And just to see that he was killed out of the blue without a reason, and I knew that he was, listed in the 6 journalists list by the Israeli forces. I knew that, but I never imagined, because it was a flagrant and blatant lie that no one would believe. Like they were writing about him that he was a sniper, and he was a sniper 10 years ago. Sorry, excuse me, he's 22. So you're saying he was a sniper at 12 years old? I can't believe it. And no one should believe it even.
And don't you even carry a sniper rifle at that age?
Exactly. Right. That's the case. It's a very obvious lie. Mm-hmm. And then, Anas Sharif, he was an extraordinary human being. We didn't talk, honestly, but I know him from afar. And I know others as well, like Dr. Wafa Al-Adaini. She's also like a professor for me. And she was killed in Deir al-Balah with her entire family. She was bombed, her house, and her house was reduced to rubble. She was an extraordinary human being. And
she was a journalist as well?
Yeah, she was a journalist. Mm-hmm. She's one of the first English-speaking journalists to appear on international media to report on Gaza. That was long before this genocide started. She's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. She taught a lot. She taught a lot of people about how to address the Western audiences. And we were going to start a new project together about Palestine and about the Israeli occupation and siege of Gaza, because Gaza had been under siege for 16 years. Who others who were killed. It's a very long list, yes. But I really remember those names very well.
May I ask you about, you mentioned her family was killed with her. Do you believe that Israel has systematically targeted families of journalists in Gaza as well?
I believe so. Yeah, of course. I don't have a doubt about that, because, when you look at Walid Dahdouh and her and other journalists whose families were killed, it's deliberate. And why it's deliberate? Because if you think about Israel's weaponry, and we all know, we've seen Israel's wars and military operations, not only just in Palestine, but in other countries. They can target people, specific people, without causing collateral damage or whatever. They can do that because they have the most developed weaponry around the world, backed by the US. Mm-hmm. So think about it. It's very simple. They can because they know where the journalist is. They know his location, they know where he goes, they know his place. That's not what they know, the journalists in Gaza, what they're doing. They know everything about Gaza and simply about everyone in Gaza, probably. Because, that's who they are. So they can wait for this journalist to come out and hit him alone. And that's what they did with other journalists, like Ismail al-Ghul, for example, and his colleague Hassan Shabat, for example. He was alone. They hit him alone. So they could hit him alone. But sometimes it's like, it's like fun. Like, let's go all family.
Right.
And that's what they did with Walid Tahlil, Al Jazeera's bureau chief. That's what they did with him.
And no better way to deter people from reporting on Israel's crimes if you're putting their family.
Yeah, I know some journalists in Gaza, they stopped reporting because of that. They said, I'm not going to risk my life for just telling the truth to a world that is blind and that is turning a deaf ear to what is happening to us. And they're right. I agree with them.
Right. Now, on Sunday, a gunman is reported from a gang linked to Israel, reportedly killed a Palestinian journalist by the name of Saleh al-Jafarawi.
Yeah. I know Saleh as well.
You knew him as well?
Yeah, I know him well. We met several times. He was working next to me at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah.
And I've read reports that he was brutally beaten, even tortured.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Why do you believe they targeted them? And what can you tell us about this gang that is reportedly responsible?
This story about gangs, I vividly remember I was the first one to take the risk and report that they were backed by Israel. And that is a report that you can see on the internet. I went live on with the Dropside News and we did a story. We were the first to write a story about that. And I was doing videos alone on my own Twitter account, on my own social media platforms talking about them. And I knew at that time that it was a very, probably reckless risk, you can say, but I really meant to report it because it was really, it was misleading a lot of people. And because I was talking to people from the ground and, I was talking to humanitarians as well, and they talked about them. And I know other people who are held at gunpoint by those gangs to give whatever they have to them. So I said, now this is the time to report it, even if no one is going to talk about it. So those gangs are, initially in wars, you will have collaborators. That's true.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're not exempted. And then, those collaborators, they were contacted by the Israeli military. And that's what Israel has been doing in previous wars in Gaza and across occupied Palestine. They're trying to recruit those informants and collaborators, questlings, whatever you want to call them, and, to help them. And they tempt them with the money. Some people agree. Some people say, no, I'm not going to be, treacherous at all. No, this is my homeland, even if it means that I'm not going to help Israel kill my own people. However, some people fall in the trap. And Israel starts, protecting them and shielding them and putting them in, in their controlled areas inside Gaza. And when the aid trucks and lorries were looted and hijacked all the time, then there must have been a report about that. And I took that responsibility and I talked about them. And then I remember I was excoriated, I was attacked. And just a few weeks later, the reports from the Israeli media have confirmed what he said in particular. And because I knew that, because, I'm hearing from people, I'm seeing it, and I'm hearing the gunfire all the time. From those, gangs surrounded by Israel. And I saw footage from Gaza as well, from Deir al-Balah, from my hometown, of people holding, guns that I've never seen in Gaza before. So from where these guns have come? From Israel. Because these guns are not, the guns that we have in Gaza or Palestine, they're homemade. And the best gun that we would have is a Kalashnikov.
The Kalashnikov?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So from where did we bring the travel or whatever? I'm not an military expert, but I'm 16, whatever. These things haven't existed. I've never seen them. Probably, and I'm 16, we would have, but there were weapons that we never saw, that they never saw with those people. And the armed resistance in Gaza never held these guns, because normally, before the genocide, the armed resistance would do or organize military exhibitions. You know what I mean? So, and people would gather around them to see the military exhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, anyone who would see them, they were parading, or they were being paraded in the streets. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you would see what they were holding, from guns, weapons, whatever. I've never seen something like this. So I realized at that time that those groups were backed by Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They were supported by, those militias were backed by Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who would constitute a danger on them, they were going to be killed by them or by Israel.
And do you think that's why this particular journalist was targeted?
Of course, 100%. Even the local security forces, and we've reported on that multiple times, the local security forces, when they were targeted, they were securing the safe passage for the aid trucks to arrive at safe places and new uncontrolled warehouses to then deliver this aid to the needy people, to the desperate people. But then those people, those gangs, armed gangs by Israel, they were shooting at those aid truck drivers. And many times aid truck drivers were killed. They were murdered just because they were, driving those trucks. And a lot of security forces, and I do remember, I talked to the Ministry of Interior during the genocide, during the ceasefire in January, and they told me that they couldn't control things because literally anyone stepping in the way of those gangs, they were targeted. If not by the gangs, it was by Israeli drones. And Israel even admitted all of that. And then this, Saleh Jafarawi, he was very vocal. He's a very vocal man. He's very supportive of the resistance, and Israel smeared him since the start, since the start of this genocide, they smeared him. And I think they smeared him before the genocide. They wanted to kill him. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it didn't shock me that he was killed. No, it didn't shock me because Israel smeared him for a very long time.
Right.
The same with Anas Sharif and others. So why Israel kills them and kills him is because we want to kill the most permanent ones. And he was making a very vast difference in the opinion and the understanding of Gaza and Palestine.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about one of these gangs in particular, because a remarkable report was published about these gangs in, of all places, the Washington Post on October 15th, so just several days ago, and that's the Abu Shahab militia. So this Washington Post article did a video interview of a leader, someone they described as a leader of this gang. His name is Yusuf Mazen.
Yeah.
Did you have an opportunity to read this article by any chance? If not,
I think I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it.
So for those of our audience members who aren't familiar with this article, so Yusuf Mazen, he does this video interview, and he says not only that the Israelis, just openly, he's lying down, very relaxed, he's smoking a Marlboro cigarette.
Yeah, I think it's so. But
right.
Yeah.
And he says, he says not only were they providing us with weapons and aid, they were also providing us with drone intelligence. And he shows off a watch, which he says, a military watch, which he says was given to him by a soldier of the genocide forces. He's actually proudly displaying this in the interview with the Washington Post. And the Washington Post says that in prior interviews they had done with members of this gang, they denied they were receiving any military aid from the Israelis, any type of aid at all. And the thing I wanted to ask you specifically about is, according to the Washington Post, this character, Yusuf Mazen, escaped from a prison a few weeks after the genocide began, along with Abu Shahab, and that he had been convicted, Yusuf Mazen, of killing a Hamas fighter in 2010. So that would have meant he was 17 years old at the time, because he's now 32. Mm. Do you know anything about the history of this person? Was he actually just a murderer who broke out of prison?
I don't think I've known much about him in particular, or I've known about him in particular. But Abu Shabab, I know about him, and these groups in particular, because they were ISIS-linked people, and that's been widely reported and verified. And we know these people very well in Gaza. And, you know, we have a prison in southern Gaza. This is a little bit of context about who these people are. And this prison is called Astal prison, and it lies in the south of the Strip near the beach. And I went by this prison many times during the genocide, and I think it was taken as a military base by Israel during the past 24 months. And this prison was mainly for the people who are ISIS-linked, who are convicted of drugs smuggling and, you know, very serious crimes, killing, murdering. Those people, those criminals would be persecuted and tried or imprisoned in this prison after, you know, many legal cases. Mm-hmm. So when the genocide started, it is a rule that all people in prisons in Gaza are allowed to go out because it's a time of, you know, escalations and genocide. Yes. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So those people, they were allowed to get outside, they were released, you know, but conditionally. It means once the genocide is stopped, they will be brought back to prisons. But Israel destroyed that prison. Mm-hmm. It destroyed much of it. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was also systematic. Mm-hmm. Because the more Israel gives freedom to those gangs, criminal, monstrous, nefarious gangs, the more they create a very strong crack of the public order. And that's what Israel wants. And that's the reason why Israel has been packing those gangs. And Netanyahu has said it publicly that he wanted to arm them, mm-hmm. you know, mm-hmm. to create this wedge among, you know, the population.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that clans that are loyal to the Fatah party of Mahmoud Abbas, that some of them have tried to exploit the situation to basically engage in armed combat against Hamas? Or?
Well, you know, the political context about this is we have long history of, I would say, conflict between Hamas and Fatah. Mm-hmm. And Gaza has many political factions, mainly four. It's, you know, the Public Front, Fatah, Hamas, and Sarai al-Quds. And those four political factions, okay, they're political wings. Mm-hmm. And there is, as I always say, there's a difference between armed resistance and political factions. Mm-hmm. And you said something just like a few months ago, Hamas fighter. We never say this in you know, in the context of Palestine. We say resistance fighter. Mm-hmm. It's not like Hamas fighter. Yeah. No.
I said that because that's how the Washington Post described it.
This is a westernized way to justify genocide. Because when you say it's a Hamas fighter, they delegitimize resistance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to delegitimize the resistance against an occupation by saying this is a Hamas fighter. No matter what this Hamas fighter does from repelling an occupation, if he is killing Israeli soldiers, still what he's doing is delegitimized because he is under the pretext or under the classification Hamas fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying. But Hamas, what we need to understand is Hamas is a government, and those who are fighting, they necessarily don't belong to Hamas or political factions. They could be me, it could be anyone who want to resist an occupation. Mm-hmm. That's a right enshrined in international laws. So getting back to your point, there is a lot of a clash, of course. And you wouldn't be surprised that, you know, part of this political faction or part of that political faction, but because the PA is controlled by Israel, you might see some people intervening. Like, we haven't seen any kind of action from the Palestinian Authority over the past 2 years during genocide. Mm-hmm. But we have seen them excoriating, attacking and blaming Hamas for something they haven't done to the Palestinians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's normal because both are clash. Both are in clash, but believe me, Fatah is not like this. It has been breeding a lot of corruption, specifically recently. But Fatah, the basis of how Fatah was created was built on the fact that it was a liberation movement. Because if you look at Fatah, what it stands for, it's a liberation movement. That's what it is. It's a liberation movement that would help to resist an occupation and make sure that we are maintaining this right to resist Israel's illegal siege of Gaza. But then things have changed because you're seeing right now the Palestinian Authority are completely under the boots of the Israelis. And they help Israel take Palestinians to prisons, and they will not allow, they haven't allowed even protests against the genocide in Gaza and the West Bank and different parts of occupied Palestine.
Peaceful protests.
Exactly, peaceful protests. It's never been allowed. So that's how it works, that we have a political faction that has changed into a tool to help Israel continue its violence and violations of any human rights in occupied Palestine, particularly in Gaza.
So I want to drill down a little bit about the right to resist. Now, we talked about this quite a few times on our program recently. There's a very instructive poll that was done in the occupied territories. I think it's called the Palestinian Center for Public Policy and Research. I may have that name a little bit wrong, but they've done many polls over the years.
I know them, yeah.
And in May of this year, they did a very comprehensive poll on a variety of issues. And one of the questions they asked was, do you support the disarmament of Hamas? Not of the resistance. They asked specifically about Hamas. Now, before I tell you what they said, you may already know, but they also asked, which political party do you support? And the percentage of people who supported Hamas was, I think, around 38%. And then Fatah was somewhere around 23 or 24. The next party down might have been the PFLP, was maybe 4%. And then there was 36 or 37% who said they don't know or they didn't support any of these parties. In any case, Hamas was clearly the leading one, right? Yeah. But it was less than 40%. The answer to the question, do you agree with the disarmament of Hamas? 80% opposed the disarmament of Hamas, which means that almost twice as many people as support Hamas were opposed to the disarmament of Hamas.
And that's tantamount. That's a tantamount to what I've just told you.
Absolutely.
Because I'm telling you, there's a difference. People, the West in particular, not people, and that's how they have brainwashed Europe in particular, that Hamas is the resistance. That's incorrect.
Exactly.
You can't. And why Hamas keeps saying, the political wing, just to tell you this, they keep saying we can't disarm, because Hamas has no authority to go to an ordinary human being and prevent him from resisting an occupation. For example, here now, if someone breaks into the house, right, and then you have a weapon just to tackle him or to defend yourself from him, okay? If a thief just breaks into the house, and then the government would say, okay, we're going to disarm you. You're going to disarm the oppressed, the victim. That's insane. That's why Hamas cannot control the disarmament of Gaza, because there are people who might join the armed resistance groups. Like, I'm in a house. I don't belong to any political faction, okay? I'm just a simple human being. And then an Israeli soldier comes in. If I have if I have a weapon, I would do my best to defend myself. That's my right, everywhere in the world. But if I don't have a weapon, I just have to flee. That's what the people of Gaza have. If they have weapons, I know, like some of the footage that got out of Gaza, it was for ordinary people who never had any political factions, affiliation at all. And then they just, when Israeli forces approached them, they went outside to fight against them, and they were killed. Those people were not Hamas, were not Fatah. So that's what it is about. It's not Hamas disarmament. It's the disarmament of Palestinians, and to make them the gentlest, victims on the planet, to kill them whenever you want, wherever you want, and as many as you want.
Risk-free.
Exactly, risk-free.
Right.
Exactly.
So the other principal demand that the Western powers and their vassals in the region are making of the Palestinians, one is disarmament, and the other is this notion of foreign supervision of Gaza. So, you've heard about the peace board, obviously, with the war criminal Tony Blair and Donald Trump, the main provider of the weapons that have been murdering Palestinian children. They want this peace board, as they call it. So every single statement I've seen coming out of the resistance is, under no circumstances will we agree to foreign supervision of Gaza. And today, nonetheless, I saw a couple of reports from the corporate media in the West that the Qataris and the Egyptians and the Turks are preparing to send in a multinational force to provide security in Gaza. Do you think there's any prospect of the people of Gaza agreeing to this?
I believe the people of Gaza, and as someone from Gaza, that only we should control Gaza. That's what we should. People whom we choose and people whom we want to be in control of the Gaza Strip. As we don't have the authority to tell the Europeans, the British people, look, no, we don't want to give Starmer to, for example, to control you or to be the Prime Minister or Rishi Sunak. No, we don't have an authority to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's the same. Those leaders don't have the authority to tell us who should control us. Mm-hmm. So it's up to us, it's up to the Palestinians inside the Strip to decide who should run Gaza, who should be the governing body of Gaza. That's up to the Palestinian people. It's up to them if they want to choose Hamas, Fatah, any political factions. It's up to them. But we need a governing body of only Palestinians. Not war criminals, as you said, like Tony Blair. Mm-hmm. Not under the supervision of Donald Trump and other world leaders who have been facilitating this genocide for the past 24 months. Mm-hmm. And not any other foreign body, even the Turkish or the Egyptians or anyone's. Those people, we welcome them helping in reviving Gaza's control or Gaza's government. We welcome that, okay? But they can help assist achieving the re-establishment of Gaza's ministries and government. Mm-hmm. But we don't allow, and I don't accept it, and I think people would agree with me in Gaza, we're not going to allow an Egyptian force to fully operate in Gaza and, run the Gaza Strip. Mm-hmm. But we welcome any help, but not from foreigners, but from people who are neighbors, because we don't believe in people who have been funding the genocide of us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our own genocide.
So my last question to you is about the future of the Palestinian cause. After having witnessed these horrors and endured them yourself, and seen the devastation of your beloved Gaza, how do you feel today about the prospects for Palestinian liberation?
I wouldn't exaggerate, but I think what happened and what transpired as we've been watching in close quarters for the last 2 years, I would say it was an important step that would usher in the liberation. But at this point, we are in a position or in a situation where we want to heal up and to recover from the unmatched pain that we've been through and the horrors. And we just want to pick up ourselves, breathe again, and rebuild what was devastated, which, of course, the entire Gaza Strip, not only the buildings, but our lives, our dreams, everything, our souls, everything in Gaza. So we needed time now. We need this time. That's why this ceasefire, although despite its fragility, we needed it just to breathe again. And I saw, footage and videos from people on the ground, particularly from central Gaza, where I do live. They are clearing up rubble from the streets. They are adorning the streets again and the roads, and they are, distributing sweets, helping each other to rebuild and reconstruct what was already demolished and reduced to rubble. And that is the spirit that you can maintain or you can have with no strikes going on, with no bloodshed continuing. So this is a great time, but as Gaza is left alone, not by the people of the free world, but by the governments, at this time, I think the liberation is on its way. But still, for the people of Gaza and the people of Palestine and the people of the free world, we need to do more. And we shouldn't stop at all. But I have no doubts that Palestine will be free entirely. I have no doubts. History has told us the oppressors will never stay, and the oppressed will nail their own freedom in the end. And that those who resist their occupation, those who are connected with their land, have been rooted in their land, and who have sacrificed everything, including their lives, for the sake of their homeland, they will never be beaten.
Inshallah.
And that's what I would say, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And we're signing off today from Athens, Greece on October 19th, 2025.